Hello, how are we all doing? Sarah here. I thought I'd wear my cowboy hat today and my sheepskin jacket in the cowboy western theme. I was watching a film the other day about pioneers, traveling through America, moving out to the West completely unprepared for the journey or the life ahead of them. Really, a lot of them were unprepared, and there was a lot of killing and bandits raiding the camp and crossing rivers and people getting swept away because they couldn't swim, and wagons getting swept away, and losing all the food because somebody had put it in the all-in-one wagon. And at one point, a mother said to her teenage daughter that this will be the freest that she will ever be in her life. They'd left a city, and the sort of social rules and ways of living in a city had been completely abandoned on this journey, and that they were moving through the plains of America completely free of any ties or government or ways of behaving. And, for some, it was all going horribly wrong. And for others, it was the greatest journey that they had ever made. And it got me thinking about, our perception of freedom. And I've been mulling it over and over in my head for days. Freedom has consequences. And what do I mean by that? That, we all want freedom to do as we choose, but are we really prepared for the consequences of having freedom? And this film actually kind of really hit a nerve, if you like. It kind of really made me think about my freedom and, what kind of freedom do I want? Things like, the horrors of having digital ID and things where we're going to lose our identity completely and definitely lose our freedoms. And as we live today in the 21st century, I question that we're really free at all. We're tied by social rules, if you like. We're tied by government rules. We're tied by tax rules. We're tied by just generally living. There are so many rules and regulations that we, as civilized people, have to follow, that really we don't have any freedom at all. And it's even got down to the point now where speech is being monitored, being policed. So we're no longer free to speak our minds, whether you think that's a good thing or not. We're not free to be able to say what we want to say. And so what consequences come with freedom? And this film really kind of laid it out, that when you are free, it means that everybody else is free as well, free to do exactly as they please. And so you have a bunch of bandits who are free to choose to raid the wagon train, to kill people, to take the women away. And that's their freedom. They have chosen to do that, whether it's right or wrong. The other people didn't have a choice. and the others are free to react in whatever way they feel fit, whether they choose not to fight back or whether they choose to try and kill the invaders, if you like. So it's a real conundrum. You know, there's so many aspects of being free that we kind of just don't appreciate. And we, you know, things like in the 21st century, you know, we have very little freedom as far as our medical health goes, in so much as that doctors and big pharma is constantly pushing the latest prescribed drugs or the latest procedure that, you know, they need to practice on somebody. Or had a friend actually recently who has been having some medical problems, and she was told by her doctor, oh, we have this new amazing treatment and we'll get you booked in for it. And she only found out, luckily before it took place, that actually it's still very much in its trial, and they don't know how the treatment might have turned out or whether it was beneficial for her or not. But they didn't tell her. They didn't give her that freedom to choose whether she wanted it or not, and I think that's so wrong. We're not given the freedom to choose whether we go, as far as the national health goes now, we're not given the freedom to choose an alternative therapist. So instead of being given antidepressant drugs, people are not being given the alternative of going to see a shamanic practitioner, for example, which can really help with depression and emotional problems, all sorts of problems. But, you know, I'm just talking about antidepressants at the moment. So they're being prescribed these so-called wonder drugs, which, in my opinion, do more harm than good. And the freedom to live our lives the way we want to live them comes at a price, doesn't it? You know, why can't we live in our houses, and if I so choose not to be supported by the local police force, or as my children are already grown up, I don't choose to support the local schools or whatever other things that the council tax supposedly pays for. You know, the fact that they don't collect our dustbins very regularly, every 3 weeks or something ridiculous. So if I could choose to opt out of that and say, burn my rubbish, but there would be consequences for that, you know. We're not allowed to live the lives that we want to live. So I don't believe that we are free. And it just, the thought of being able to go to a country that there are no rules, but one has to take the consequences of that in the adventure, if you like. We have to take responsibility for our lives and our health and the way that we eat and the sort of foods that we eat. We have to take responsibility for drinking clean water, or making sure that the water we do drink is clean. We have to take responsibility to our neighbours. So, you know, it all comes with a moral compass, and admittedly some people appear not to have that, but the vast majority of people do. And so then freedom is then kind of put into a container, because, you know, you're safer from bandits if you're in a group. So then once you're in a group, do you start having rules of what you can and what you can't do within that small group, that small community? And how are people treated if they steal, for example? Are they shunned and pushed out of the community? Like a lot of Indigenous peoples do that. If you don't fit in with the moral code of your community, then you are pushed out. So freedom comes with consequences. And it's a really interesting dilemma, if you like. How far are we prepared to go for our freedom? Do we feel safe living like we do now, which isn't completely free, but we have, a police force, say, or the knowledge that if somebody broke into our house, they would be hopefully apprehended and sent to prison. So it kind of got me thinking about this notion of freedom, and how far would I go to be completely free of the system, free of the binds of the way that we live right now. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think? Can you think of any other consequences of freedom? Just being one has to be responsible for our own actions. But I guess the consequences are that not everybody feels the same, and we might be forced into a situation that either we die or somebody else dies. A very interesting dilemma, I think. Have a good day. Ciao for now.